Jessica Clark joined us earlier from Sanford Zimmerman trial, where the defense continued making its case today.
That's why we have our legal panel here right now. John Phillips, Richard Kurtz, we appreciate your time again, gentlemen. All right, let's start off with the general question. What did you make of today?
It was an interesting day. You know, there was a parade of witnesses. We're going to say almost borderline character witnesses for Zimmerman. And then lo and behold, they called Tracy Martin Trayvon's father. So it was a pretty interesting day as far as the defense, and we're going to be carrying out the rest of the week.
Sure. I thought it was a little unusual. You don't see typically character witnesses, as we described them, or witnesses who are giving their opinions. And that's really what we had a lot of today, was simply people talking about George Zimmerman, a little bit about his character, how they know him, kind of making him touchy-feely. And then they start asking basically your opinion. Whose voice is that?
One even called him Georgie. They were like, Georgie.
Right.
And finally they corrected it and said, no, you've got to start calling him Mr. Zimmerman, and the judge instructed a witness. You know,
why is that? Because of you just making him seem too sweet?
Personalization, you know, personalization. And in fact, these witnesses, from somebody from inside the courtroom texted me and said every single defense witness went in and they were smiling at the jury, and they were doing what we coach witnesses to do.
Right, sure, but you're currying favor with the jury, and that's what you're not supposed to be able to do. I mean, you're supposed to simply let the facts be the facts. You don't want to inflame the passions of the jury in one way, and you don't want to curry favor improperly. So it's been happening today.
Right, and now we heard Trayvon Martin's father take the stand, and they asked him a lot. Did he tell investigators, did he tell police that he did not think that was his son screaming on the 911 call?
Sure, and it's one of the issues that John and I talked about. Well, he thought that was very powerful. What I took away from it is he didn't know. I mean, and he came in there and said something different than what the police officers were going to come in and say. He said, no, I never said that, and then all of a sudden you bring in one law enforcement officer, maybe two, to say that. And I think the jury just realizes Dad wants to say that, but Dad can't say that.
It's hard as a victim's advocate not taking myself away from something like this. And Tracy, unlike some of the witnesses you saw today, was real. He was like, look, I heard it. I didn't want to think it was my son, but ultimately I thought it was my son. And as far as the gotcha that the defense had, that he said it wasn't his son, he said he never said it. And that's a fairly big deal in the scheme of things when the FBI expert said a parent knows his child's voice. And he was honest. He was real. It wasn't, I'm emphatic that this was my son.
Yeah, and that's what you're seeing. You're seeing those people, at least the father, he said, look, I couldn't say that. Even the brother, to some extent, said, I couldn't say that. But you're bringing in all these other people like, absolutely, heard it.
Neighbors, I know that was it.
Absolutely. You know, so you take it for what it is. I expect the jury's going to say, you know, nobody really knows. We can't believe this 5 or that 5 or these 2 or these 3. Let's just disregard that and move on. That's what I think is going to happen.
And as far as the jury getting the case, I mean, do you think it's going to happen this week?
You know, we talked about it. I mean, while earlier predictions, I suspected it would be ending by Wednesday, at least the defense case by Wednesday. Based on some of the testimony and some of the recent ruling by the judge that some of the marijuana issue will be coming in, I anticipate the state's going to probably put on a rebuttal case Thursday and Friday, and then we'll decide, do we let them just rest for the weekend, or do we begin closing arguments?
O'Mara said Wednesday, which in lawyer speak always means the next day. It's always Thursday. You always budget a day. And then now we've gotten into, they're allowing THC, the fact that Trayvon had trace amounts of marijuana in his system, to come in. And so that's going to require more rebuttal. I'd suspect we may roll into, unless we try to get it in on Saturday, we may roll into next week.
All right, guys. Definitely want you to start voting. Go to firstcoastnews.com. We've got a page dedicated to the George Zimmerman trial. We've got 3 new questions. One of those questions were the screams on the 911 call, Trayvon Martin or George Zimmerman. I mean, that's one of the key hinging points right there, and it's all opinion, it seems, at this point, because there's really only one person in the world who knows that, and we've heard that through testimony. So go and vote, and we'd love to hear your opinion on that as well.
And just real quick, one answer: if today the jury was given the case, how would it end? You
know, since you say it that way, I still have to say, you know, while it'd be nice to say it's too early, I say the defense wins.
Hung or manslaughter. I'm still optimistic on the conviction, but this case has divided the nation. Why shouldn't it divide the jury?
And you said in a case of a hung situation, you know, and Bernie personally, it seems, he'd do this 5 more times?
It would not shock me at all. The difference is, obviously, there's a lot of time and money that went into this, so they may say, you know what, it's just not possible. But I've tried several cases with Bernie. We've had several hung juries before. Typically, we will tee it up maybe next month or 2 months, but they will go again.
John Guy's got Jordan Davis case coming up in September, too.
Sure. So time is of the essence.
Watching and waiting.
All right, guys, thank you so much. All right, let's check the weather now with